Hello and welcome back to another episode of this loader build. I need to work on creating a subframe today, and like I mentioned, they were kind of hidden, but these are GT14 frame brackets, and so my plan is to use those pads at least for mounting the uprights. And now I have to worry about building the rest of the subframe. It seems to be that on other front-end loader builds, that front tach-o-matic or mid-mount tach-o-matic becomes one of the mounting points, along with the rear axle underneath. And so that's where I'm going to start my day, is figuring and thinking. A couple years ago, I was given all this pallet racking from a company that was moving to another shop, and they had a whole, I guess the camera's gonna move. They had a whole nother plan for their racking system. So all of this was just left in an empty, vacant building, and I took about a week and yanked it all out. And I've got a lot more of these cross members handy and available that I probably won't ever use. I'm already running out of the uprights, but I've got just a ton of cross members, just due to my racking preference as far as spacing. I've used some of those cross members in the past for fork extensions and for making pallets for things like storing buggies on racking. So I thought maybe those cross members are tough enough that I could use those for that subframe. As mentioned, I've got a few extra cross members, and some of them were fabricated recently, and haven't ever really were subject to the suspended weight loads that could cause creep in a piece of metal. So I figured I'd pick that one out right there and use it. Then I remembered these heavy posts here. They were bolted to the ceiling of the building and also to the floor, and used to clamp some of the racking in place in high traffic areas. So if I just cut some of these up, there's my subframe. Just needs a little red paint on it, maybe black. My next order of business was finding a 3/4 inch rod for that front tach-o-matic. I ran out to my spare parts pile and found this here, and I can use that rod. I need about 16 to 18 inches, so I can cut that here, cut it there, and there's my solid bar for that front tach-o-matic too. So in my pile of parts, I found these brackets all cut out and lasered. I got a feeling that's for them front mount for the subframe. So I've just got a basic rectangle kind of built right now as far as my layout. This is much longer than it needs to be, but remember, I've got these weights, and I believe I'm going to have 2 stacks of them, so that way my pile of weights is not all just on one stack, and I can move the weight further back as well. That's all solid bar. So my plan is I'll cut those in half and then hole saw 2 cross members in line and drop those 1-inch pipes down in there, plug weld them, so I'll have another one here. And then wherever I end up needing to cut this off, I can build a hitch after that to replace that tow bar. So those posts are going to end up mounting about right here, somewhere like that. So I will have a piece of 2-inch tubing go all the way across and sit on top of this subframe. And then I also think what I'll do is I'll triangulate back and tie into the subframe wherever I can, as far back as I can. It'll be one more way to support the load this way. It'll also help as far as when I'm pushing, I'll have a good support this way. So I think that's important to have it like that. There we go. It's in there, and it looks good. And just by eyeball, it is centering on the rear end, which is good. And I grabbed some of this 1/4-inch wall 2x4 tubing, and I'm kind of thinking I've still got a piece of that I ripped corner to corner, so I basically have a big piece of that angle left. I'm kind of thinking if that upright sat right on top of that tubing, and then I take what's left of that angle piece and just make a bracket to bolt those two, I won't even need to cut those up. I keep those for if I ever wanted to build a GT14 loader or someone else needed them. So I'm thinking that'll be it. Well, I've got this loader positioned where I like it. It seems to be doing pretty all right as far as the weight distribution. It's right about in the middle. There's going to be a ton of weight behind the axle. And I'm going to load those tires, probably run wheel weights as well, front and rear. I've got the big old monster valve on here. There's room for my knee, room for my feet, room for the pedals. Everything seems to be working well as far as that fitment. You can see too it's offset as far as the angle goes. I prefer that as far as my ergonomics goes. I could move this over a little bit and even just heat these arms up and put a bend in them. And I might do that if the hydraulic hose connections gets in my way. That's an option. But I really like that. And so I have my uprights at 37 3/8 apart on the outside. That's where I'm going to have to cut that. And from the center of my 3/4 inch pin to the front of this tube, I've got 10 inches even. So just for my own reference, that's where I've got that. I'm going to pop that apart and clean up the yellow tubes, clean up the steel tube, cut it down to length, and see what I can do about building actual mounts. I did find in my various parts pile a piece of 2-inch by 1/4 inch angle iron, so I'll cut that down and use it for my mounts there. So I'll have very good support, and then eventually, like I say, I'm still going to try to do something to go back at an angle and put a little bit of lateral strength or gusset there, or maybe even go forward right there. It's hard to say. I've got my rear cross members both cut, and I'm just using a step bit to drill holes in my 7.5 inch center, and that step bit's long enough that I can poke through the other side by about 1/2 inch, and then I can pick up that hole on the other side to finish the holes all the way through. That plan worked out pretty well. So now I'll be able to, you know, slide it halfway down or whatever, or slide it in, weld it, cut off the center, that's what I'll do, and then I'll slide the other in halfway or whatever, weld it, and then I can just pop them roll pins out, and everything will stay nice and parallel, right where it should be. All right, we've got some cross members welded in. This is the back of the loader subframe, and I don't know how much of this I'll keep, or if I'll shorten that up to about where the weights go and hack that off and add one more for a trailer hitch. We'll see how that goes. Up front a little bit, right here will be where the rear axle mounts, and so these are 1/2 inch by 2 inch bars, and they'll be welded on, and then I'll probably drill and tap these, and then drill through with 1/2 inch hardware to clamp that to the rear axle. And then moving forward, I've got this front cross member welded on, and it's just tacked to the front of the cross member or the subframe. And same deal, I've got all the front tacked together. And so now I should be able to, I did scratch where the axle is, so I can clean that up and weld those on good, and then do another test fit and just make sure everything's going well. Gonna need to drill holes in both of these tabs and then just finish welding things. Both of these edges right here are testaments to how clean that cuts. It works so well, so smooth, flush and square, no burrs. It's good to go. It's just clean. Thanks again for watching. I've got some welding to do, so I'll see you soon in another video.